We have a trade. We have a trade. The Flyers have done something here on the NHL trade deadline day. I am Ryan Gilbert. Joining me is Kyle, also known as Chasing the Puck. He does great YouTube videos for us. Kyle, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. I was just took a shower and then I come out of the shower, see this trade Kuzmenko happening. So that's of course what happens when a trade breaks there, just like we all expected.
Everyone get in the shower.
Yeah, everyone get in the shower. We'll get a first round pick for Scott. But yeah, Andrei Kuzmenko has been traded to the Los Angeles Kings, according to multiple reports here. Flyers getting a 2027 third round pick. Flyers also sending a 2025 seventh round pick, which is whatever, seventh round pick. And Flyers are retaining 50% of Kuzmenko's $5.5 million cap hit. So that's a second retention slot this year, along with Kevin Hayes. They have one left if they choose to use that for Ristolainen or Scott Laughton here. But Flyers legend Andrei Kuzmenko.
Yeah, I mean, it was a memorable 7 games. I thought I liked what he was doing on the ice. I mean, it wasn't he didn't bang down the door to stay. I thought in the majority of his games, he played well. He was noticeable. It's a bummer to see him go, mostly because he's just a goofball, and he was really fun in the time he was here. I know on Flyperbole, Steve and Quiggs were talking about him as maybe the next best friend for Gritty if Laughton gets traded later today, but it looks like we're gonna have to find someone else. But I mean, the way I sort of look at it is, I'm on cap wages. So yeah, it's Farabee and Frost turned into Pelletier, a second, a third, and a seventh.
And they traded away a seventh. Did they trade away the seventh that they got?
No, so I just looked at that. They got the one they got from Calgary was a seventh in 2028.
Oh, okay. That's not even on cap wages yet.
No. Yeah, and also, we freed up. I mean, although he was going to be a free agent in the summer, so it wouldn't have mattered. But
yeah,
I mean, it's more money to play around with.
Yeah, we got Thomas, I'm assuming, commenting here. Why is my article immediately on the screen? It's to remind people that just $5 a month, 16 cents a day. You can subscribe to BroadStreetHockey.com to get all this fantastic content. Andrei Kuzmenko, Kolosov is going down to the AHL as well. Also some rumors on there. So make sure you check out BroadStreetHockey.com. But I guess I'll remove that if Thomas hates it. We can be a little bit bigger here. Andrei Kuzmenko ends his Flyers tenure, 2 goals, 3 assists, and 5 points there in seven games. Same stat line as Flyers legend Jody Shelley in 89 games. Briz also had 5 points in his 99 games. Derek Grant 5 points in his 7 games. Ryan Ellis 5 points in 4 games. I mean, some legends there have had 5 points in their Flyers tenure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of his fit for LA. I mean, I gotta say, I'm a little bit of an early bird when it comes to going to sleep, so I don't exactly see a lot of Kings games, but he's got familiarity with the conference, and they're probably going to match up against Edmonton in the first round again. So, I mean, he showed here in Philly that he has some, offensive flair. He was around the net a lot, and it's not a huge deal, but it's something we got back.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday. We're doing the vibe check, whatnot. Be like, yeah, if it can get Kuzmenko, all these guys going for a second. I mean, Beauvillier went for a second today. Nyquist went for a second. So thought maybe you could get a second for Kuzmenko, but yeah, I got the Kings line up here on the screen. I imagine Kuzmenko will probably slot in there on the third line. Fogle to know more somewhere there. Yeah, the Kings are one of those teams that have good forward depth. They're just adding to that. They definitely needed some more scoring if they're going to match up with the Oilers again, who they have not had success against in the playoffs there. So Kuzmenko, very fun while he was here. Also, I guess from a Flyers perspective, what do you think they do with that line now? I mean, Kuzmenko's traded, Scott Laughton's probably traded, so then you have Konechny just floating around out there, which kind of seems like how Torts has been using him the past 2 games, just like throwing him out there with whoever.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have to imagine this will be, and especially, well, yeah, I assume we're going to see some call ups, unless there's further trades later today where we get back a roster player. Like,
Mhm.
I know the big scuttlebutt is everyone's assuming that if Lawton gets traded, one of the most likely landing spots is going to be Toronto, and maybe we're taking back David Kampf or something like that. So, but we'll probably see an Oli Lixell or Rodrigo Abols
Mhm.
to come back up, barring something else that we don't know. Um, as far as a question that comes up for me that I just wonder about, is, how recent was this decision to sort of trade him? Like, was it always, hey, let's dangle him and see if we get a third, or was it brought upon by the prices that we're seeing? I mean, who Anthony Beauvillier just went for a second round pick,
Yeah.
and when you see how much teams are paying for some players at this deadline, was it, did it incentivize Danny to push for it more aggressively? I have to imagine he was out there the whole time, but as far as the roster implications, yeah, I think it's just, I just expect it to be some call ups.
Yeah. Anthony Richard or Ali Excel, but first and foremost, great use of scuttlebutt. It's not necessarily used as much as it should be there. But yeah, they'll definitely call someone up, I think. And yeah, it's interesting with the Kuzmenko stuff because there were reports or official whatever that they had to talk to him to get him to waive his no trade clause. So Danny and Keith Jones had a conversation with him. We speculated, could that have been like, okay, you're coming here to play with Michkov, you can stay the rest of the year. We'll give you a deal in the off season if you play well, you fit in well, or was it okay? We're going to keep you for a few weeks, and then we'll flip you to a contender if a contender comes calling. So maybe he's been out there the whole time, but definitely this past week of trade, these second round picks being thrown around, definitely can't hurt there for Kuzmenko and teams coming in on him.
One thing I will say is, Andrei Kuzmenko is no longer going to be on the power play, so he's not going to be there to potentially save Rocky Thompson's job with any end of the year bumps in power play percentage. So, take that for what you will. Whether that's a good, I think we'd all agree that, hey, I would love to see our power play look better, but I also wouldn't want it to create some sort of excuse to say, oh, it looked better at the end of the year, so maybe we're figuring it out. Let's try another year of figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, if it looked that much better, they should have kept him then. If they think it was going to look that much better, like, oh, we had a guy there that worked, and then keep him. But yeah, I think you'll probably get Tippett back up to that top unit. Maybe they were kind of showcasing Kuzmenko on the power play there, as they probably were with Lawton and Risto. So get Tippett back up on the top unit. Maybe Brink up there. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, if Lawton gets traded, Risto gets traded, that completely changes the power play there. I have a comment here from Mike True. Trade makes no sense. As well as he was playing, seemed like he fit quite well, and you only get a third in 2027, not even 26. Yeah, I do see that angle of it. He's playing well, he's fitting in well, he's vibing well. But if the Flyers ultimately weren't planning on keeping him in the offseason, I don't hate getting a third round pick for him, even if it's in 2 drafts. That's another asset they can use to trade up with this draft, trade up the next draft. Maybe they don't even use that pick. So, yeah, I mean, and also it opens up a roster spot, especially going into next training camp. I mean, who knows if Lixell will finally have his last chance. Denver Barkey turning pro. Like, there's some guys there that are going to be knocking on that door. Maybe Tuamala finally comes up. But yeah, Kuzmenko could have been fun to keep around, but ultimately not the worst thing in the world here.
Yeah, it's hard to really feel any sort of negativity about this other than just straight vibes. Like, he was fun to watch, he was silly, but I mean, this is exactly the kind of, just small rebuild move you should pull. Like, we have no allegiance to him. Um, I would imagine, I think when we first traded for him, Danny, or there was, I don't know if Danny said it outright or if it was just part of the tweets that were coming out, like, oh, Kuzmenko was someone they were potentially thinking about looking at in the off season.
Mm.
And like, I'll put it this way, like, if he was something you were going to look at the off season, like, the Flyers did open up some cap space with getting rid of Frost and Farabee. And so if you got him in your system and you weren't sold on what he brought to the table, it's I think it's honestly a good move to, hey, now we have one less player we need to look at in the off season, and give a bunch of money to, or a long-term contract kind of thing, or even just a couple of years. It's, we've seen what we want to see, and we're fine moving him on for a trade chip down the line. We may use that, we may not use that. Either way, it's a good use of assets, and yeah, I don't see anything extremely negative. The one thing that I just thought of that I do wonder now is, Zamula's name has been out there strangely the last 2 days, and I think a lot of people talk about how, oh, we need a Russian best friend for Michkov on the team, and like, I get it to an extent, but like, I wonder how much we really do. So now Kuzmenko's gone, and if you trade Zamula, then you still have Fedotov on the team as a Russian compatriot, but I wonder if this does at all affect their willingness to get rid of Zamula.
Yeah, because I mean, you brought it up. It was a great segue there. Apparently, the Flyers are getting calls on Zamula. I'm not sure if there's rumors about it. There's tweets about it. I'm not sure if Steve Dangle just started that, and now people are trying to, be like, oh, I heard there's two. But yeah, there were some tweets this morning that they are getting calls on Zamula. A few teams have reached out. Also, Ryan Poehling is getting some interest as well. So I forgot who made the joke in the Slack that if Lawton and Risto, it's like we have Lawton and Risto at home, and it's Poehling and Zamula if the Leafs get that. Scott Lawton was not at practice this morning. We have a fresh post from Charlie O'Connor on Blue Sky here. Tortorella on Lawton's absence from practice. Obviously, his name's been out there a lot. It's going to be a very quick skate, so we just kept him off. Kuzmenko also did not join his teammates for practice, for what it's worth, and he's now been traded. Risto, EJ, and Zamula all on the ice, so good info there from Charlie. Not surprised to see Lawton off the ice. He's definitely probably dealing with a lot. Yeah, going back to Zamula, like, I don't even know what would you be happy with for a return for Zamula? Would it be a second round pick? Would it be a third round pick? Would it be as a throw in on another deal? Like, I don't even know what Zamula's value is around the league.
I don't know either. I mean, he put up 21 points last year. He's got 14 this year in 45 games. Like, if I didn't look at that and you said, how many points does Zamula have this year? I'd be like, I don't know, 6. Like, to me, I watch Zamula every time he plays, and there are certain times that he looks like, oh, that was a decent game from Zamula, but I've never seen anything from I see their little thing at the bottom. Zamula doesn't like wow me. I feel like he's very similar to like Robert Haig. Like,
yes,
he's a third pair defenseman who I would say the majority of the time, stresses me out when he's on the ice and makes a lot of mistakes. I don't think he's the worst defenseman in the world, but like, I'd be fine moving on from Zamula for, it's a seller's market, so get whatever you want. If someone wants to throw a third round pick, like, sure, but I wouldn't even mind if it's like a fifth, because we've got Andrei and we want him to come up. We're probably going to keep Risto for at least the rest of this year. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, he's six. I just looked it up really quick. I was like, okay, is he like really big? Is this why like teams are calling? He's 6'3". That's like a sizable defenseman. It's not, it's not Risto size, but you know, teams always in the playoffs need extra defensemen as they get hurt. I mean, you need 8, 9 defensemen, it seems like, in the playoffs. And, what's a 5th round pick or a 4th round pick for Igor Zamula?
Yeah, like you think last year the Flyers gave up a 4th for Eric Johnson for his
Right.
veteran presence to play for a bit. So yeah, get a third for Zamula, get whatever for Zamula. I know there was talk last year of teams like potentially trading for Sealer and Walker as a pair. I wonder if a team would like Risto and Zamula together. That could be something interesting. But the Flyers are reportedly asking quite the haul for Rasmus Ristolainen, according to Darren Dreger, a first, a prospect, and a player. Decent chance he stays in Philly. Hard to replace. So yeah, they've been talking up Risto pretty good. He'll probably get moved in the offseason. And I just glanced at the Flyers' advanced stat numbers here on Natural Stat Trick. Igor Zamula has the best expected goals for percentage among regular defensemen. Emil Andre's above him, but like of the regulars, he has 54.73. Cam York is next to 53. And then you got Risto, Drysdale, Sanheim all in the 51. So
right.
Yeah, he hasn't been bad. Like he's not like out there like Andrew McDonald, like you notice him making mistakes. He's fine. He's a
6'7".
He's a 6'7" defenseman. He can play the left side, he can play the right side. Like you said,
right.
Teams need that in the playoffs. They need someone that can be like, all right, someone's banged up, he can't go this game. Let's get Zamula in there. He can play 15 minutes and not hurt us.
Right. And he's also signed next year for 1.7 mil. And the following year, he's still an RFA. He will have ARB, but he's still an RFA with control. So it's, 1.7 mil on a $95.5 million salary cap. Like for a 6'7", yeah, it's if Danny could get something okay for him, go for it. Or even package one of the, like if you want to get a second for him and it's going to cost you, I don't know, throwing in an extra pick that we have, like I don't get, like even throw in something else. If it ups the value a little bit.
Yeah, like and looking ahead, like Zamula he's too good to send down on waivers. He's too good to be like the consistent 7, I think. And like looking at next year, Sanheim's going to be here still. Cam York's going to be here. Drysdale, Sealer, that's 4 right there. And then you want Andrei up. You want to see if Bonk has a chance. You want maybe some of these other guys. So Zamula's kind of just like blocking people, not in like a bad way, but just like it doesn't hurt to get rid of them.
No. And I mean, like I would say this year it was fine to sort of, this year felt like it was fine to run it back a little bit because a lot of the guys weren't ready or they couldn't be here. But next year feels like there's a good amount of young players who will be able to play either in the NHL or the AHL with a couple of those CHL guys like potentially Alex Bump, and whoever potentially we draft this year. So I think if you want, like, it would make perfect sense to sort of free up that spot if someone gives you a decent value. I did just see, although I did just see Thomas put in the Slack that who knows if this will actually get done, but it says Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars are closing in on an extension. So
yeah, that's the only thing holding them up there. I saw the return for that was like Stankoven plus. So, I mean, Stankoven's a good player. He was, one of the Calder Trophy favorites going into the year. I mean, we'll see what else they get for him. But yeah, that Rantanen situation's just been all over the place for Carolina.
I love that Rantanen situation because my dream is still to offer sheet Wyatt Johnston. So if they throw $12 million of cap space at Mikko Rantanen, that just puts them in a further bind this summer.
Absolutely. Unless he's in the deal somehow. Yeah, unless Johnston or like they wouldn't trade Hintz or Robertson. I don't think. I think it's probably Stankoven, maybe a defenseman as well. I mean, we'll see here in less than 2.5 hours until the
Yeah.
deadline. Speaking of that, though, yeah, Lawton not at practice. Probably going to be, I think, held here until at least 2 o'clock after waivers. The Leafs put Ryan Reeves on waivers yesterday to clear some cap space. He has to clear or get claimed. So, it did seem like it would be a boring morning here for Flyers fans. But yeah, Kuzmenko gone for a third. So they at least did something. You can't say
Yeah.
Danny didn't do anything if they somehow do end up not trading Lawton.
Yeah, it was. I could never. Every scenario in my head, that I tried to come up with of them not doing anything just didn't make sense. Like, there's just, you see these prices, and like, we're gonna trade someone, um, and even if this is it, which I highly doubt. I know it happened before the Four Nations break, but we traded out essentially 3 roster players. I know they were all in the same deal, but it that is a significant, those are significant moves to the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing will ever sort of satisfy the thirst of the, trade everyone and everything, fans, but that's those are 3 roster players.
Yeah, and they got out from Farabee's contract, which he was unfortunately not living up to. Frost wasn't going to sign here, so yeah, it made sense. That was a big trade. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'll be disappointed if this is it, or if the only other trade is like Paling or Zamula, because Paling is kind of the same situation as Zamula, where he's a fine 4C, but like you have guys coming up that will want to take that, especially if they go big game hunting. You have Kate's there, you have Luchenko's going to make the roster next year. You have Couturier. That's 3 centers right there, and like Paling, sure, he could be a decent fourth line winger, but if a team wants to give you a mid round pick for him, go for it.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, but I think from now until probably 2 o'clock, it'll probably be a little quiet on the Flyers fronts. I just anticipate the whole Reeves thing, clearing
Mhm.
waivers or potentially getting claimed, is kind of the next hurdle, and then things will, especially, and now with Rantanen as well. I know people were this morning. I was listening to some people. I think I woke up and I was listening to What Chaos, um, and they were talking about, like, I think, you know people, some of the forwards were being held up by Rantanen, and so now if Rantanen is going to officially sign in Dallas, that's another chip off the board, and teams could stop sort of worrying about that and move on to the guys who are available.
Yeah, the Rantanen's off the board. Brock Nelson's off the board after a big trade last night. First round pick and Callum Ritchie to the Islanders there.
Yep.
Ryan Donato's still out there as a center, but Scott Lawton is the top center on TSN's trade bait board.
Yep.
Then Donato, who's, yeah, I mean, probably better than Lawton, honestly, but there hasn't been as much talk around him. Braden Shen seems like the Blues are going to keep him, and then Dylan Cousins has been traded to
Yep.
the Senators for Josh Norris, so involving other players as well. So yeah, Lawton he's still the guy out there. I got a comment here from David in the chat. If we could have gotten a first rounder for Lawton and don't, let's light the pitchforks. Yeah, I feel like that's where a lot of the fan base is at, and it's not unfair to say. It's not
No.
unfair to say if there's a first round pick on the table for Lawton, you have to take it. And like,
Yeah.
sure, that'll grading the deadline would probably be like a B. Then I'd be like, all right, I'm satisfied. They did what they had to do. Just nothing flashy. Didn't get in too much of an overpay for him. Just what the price was.
Yeah, I think we should absolutely trade Lawton if we're offered a first. And I would say, you know, if you're gonna if it doesn't happen, I can't foresee very many reasons that could come out behind the scenes that would, sort of alleviate those feelings. So, oh, we just saw coming through. Winnipeg
Winnipeg Jets
requires Luke Schenn.
have acquired former Flyer, the hawking right-handed rear guard Luke Schenn from Pittsburgh. I mean,
so that probably takes Winnipeg out of the Risto sweepstakes.
I hope not. Luke Schenn's like a 7 at this point. He brings the vibes. He won the cup in Tampa, right? He won the cup, I think. So he brings that veteran presence.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't coming into today or even this week expecting Risto to be traded. So, I mean, I know some people will be disappointed by it, but it just didn't seem like it was going to happen this year.
No, off season definitely for Risto, but yeah, Lawton should be gone in the next 2.5 hours. Here it is. It'll be sad to see him go, but if they get a first round pick or a first round pick plus, it might be able to soften that blow a little bit.
I mean, the other thing, yeah, and maybe you're right. Winnipeg, before I'm on cap wages right now, before the Luke Schenn trade hits their books, it says their deadline space is like 14 mil. So they could that.
How do they have so much?
I mean, it's Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I also don't completely understand the whole deadline cap space thing, like LTI, like banking cap.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand the deadline cap space. I mean, I also, yeah, I don't know.
Wait. Kurt is putting in the Slack here. 2nd and a 4th for Luke Schenn. A 2nd and a 4th for Luke Schenn.
So hold on, what did he get? Okay, let me see.
Because what did the Penguins trade for him? They traded Bunting. Wait, I had the trade tracker up. It was
okay. So they
Bunting and a 4th for Novak and Schenn. Now they've traded Schenn for a 2nd and a 4th. So it's
Bunting, Schenn, and a 4th for Tommy Novak, a 2nd and a 4th.
Yeah,
essentially.
I mean, if he got a 2nd and a 4th, you can probably get a 2nd and a 4th for Zamula. Like that's like, I know Schenn has more experience in all of that, but yeah, that's
and Schenn's also a righty, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of activity happening here.
Yeah, I think it's going to start picking up. So, I guess. Do you have more?
No, not really. I was getting ready to wrap up here. We'll go live again if there's any big Flyers trade breaks. We will also be going live after the deadline, likely at 4 p.m. for a little happy hour thing. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to the Broad Street Hockey YouTube here. If we get to 1,000 subscribers before the deadline, which will be unlikely to happen, someone's getting that Scott Hartnell haircut. We're at 6:30 right now, so need a big push late. But yeah, Kuzmenko traded for a 3rd. Scott Laughton rumor still out there. A bunch of activity here, so stay tuned here. Kyle, anything else before we close it out?
No, we'll see you. We'll see you pretty soon.
All right, see you guys.